Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Ishi TV. I'm Ekta Kapoor, and today we're going to talk about what spiritual practice is right for you. Now, trust me when I say this, but spending time on your own inner growth is the best investment that you're ever going to make in your life. And it's not just about spending time with yourself, it's about having a spiritual practice that you do every day. Because when you do something every day, it's like an exercise and it strengthens you. And the point of this is that when there are problems in life, when you face obstacles, and let's face it, we are going to face obstacles, then at least you have the spiritual muscle to deal with them and you're not going to go down. You're able to come out of it faster and in a better way. But what kind of spiritual practice works for you? You see, every person is different out there. Everybody has different needs, different personalities. Some people, they go for a long walk alone in the forest and they come back and say, wow, that was a deeply meditative experience for me. Some people find that kind of fulfillment from cooking. Some people write a gratitude journal every night. Some people paint, so everybody has different kinds of ways of finding that time with themselves and that time to spend on their inner growth, on their inner journey. So today let's talk about what is going to be the right kind of spiritual practice for you. So to do that, today we've invited author Abhijita Kulshrestha, and she's the author of this book, Cosmic Sutra. So I'm going to invite her into the studio now.
Hi, Abhijita. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here on Ishi TV. And for our viewers, Abhijita is based in Bangalore. She's an astrologer by day and a writer by night. She's also a life coach, a spiritual healer, and a certified NLP practitioner, which is neuro-linguistic programming. She's done her master's degree in mass communication from Punjab University, and she had a long stint as a writer, working with some of the biggest names in the media, such as Bennett and Coleman, R.K. Swami, and Micah. She strongly believes that holistic and lasting changes can be brought about only when you tune in to your higher power and absorb and energize yourself with the cosmic energy that is meant for you. And I love that thought.
Thank you, Ekta. That was very nice. You seem to have rolled all my life into a very short, pithy, but crisp 2 minutes. And I could see so much passing by. Thank you.
So let's talk about your book. When I was going through it, I noticed that it describes 5 elements corresponding to certain chakras in the body and also to the senses. So can you share more about this? And actually, I'm very curious to know which ones are more dominant in me, and how would anybody, be able to know that?
Sure. When you look at optimizing your life, if you go down to the lowest common denominator, which is your 5 elements, if you can balance them, if there is some way you can create more harmony within your system, there are bound to be better outcomes. So if you look at the earliest of knowledge around this subject, there has been Ayurveda, which is probably the earliest form where it describes personality types based on the elements. And then you have the Chinese astrology, which did come much later, but gives a lot of emphasis on the 5 elements again, but they're worded differently, of course. Then there is the Greek theory of humors, where it talks about blood, phlegm, color, melancholy. And after that, of course, then there are the chakra theories, which abound aplenty, and people with whatever their levels of knowing are try to give you a glimpse into how it works. And then my understanding as it has dawned is mostly through the planets, because I work with astrology. But yes, Ayurveda and planets put together is what I would say is where my insight comes from. So from the earliest times, that there are these 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And these are nothing but these 5 elements and various combinations.
So if you look, this is what is mentioned in Ayurveda, right?
Yes. So Vata is nothing but combination of air and ether. If you look at Pitta, it is water and fire. And if you look at Kapha, It's earth and water. And the reason why they are called tridoshas is because dosha literally means a very delicate state of balance. So the core components of any human being, which are these 5 elements, they combine to form these different doshas in various permutation combinations, and they are in a very delicate balance. So to club someone as you are this personality or you are that personality, it's a slightly difficult job, because at the very premise of things, we are starting with the fact that it's a very delicate balance. Now, I may be a very water based person. Let's say I'm a creative person and I like to, interlope between the worlds of, let's say, cinema or reading or creating or arts or crafts. But then when I have a deadline and I wake up tomorrow, I'm a very, very earth person because I know there are consequences and I must jug up my work. So my body, my mind will fluctuate accordingly, and these things rejig at a moment's notice also.
So
But
even okay, so on a daily basis, we actually go through the
of course,
different.
of course. But predominantly there are streaks. Predominantly, if you look at the core of things, the conditions at the time of your birth, the elemental presence at the time of your birth, what were dominant is what your state of homeostasis will be. And if it gets disturbed, therefore there will be disturbances. So predominantly, if you're angry, most part of the days, you know that your pitta or your fire is kicking in way too much than it should. Or if you're having too many meltdowns, or if you're having outbursts at the slightest of thing, or every second movie or a serial or anybody is able to make you cry, then there's way too much water probably. And if there are situations where you run away from, probably you want to just leave things, that this is not your space and I would like to just go, then probably there's way too much ether. So there are different symptoms, different patterns that you'll be able to notice for yourself, and you'll be able to figure out what is it that I am. I have an excess of, what is it that I'm lacking, and in the same breath, what I would also like to say is that one cannot essentially just think of filling that one deficit. It's a combination of all these elements which come together to give you wellness. So when you do the meditation, it has to be for all the 5 elements, because all of them are moving every day. It's not that there is something that is in deficit, so let me just fill that up. So it has to be a consistent upkeep of that harmony.
That is why it's important to have a spiritual practice. And practice, the word itself means that you have to practice it every day, and it's never going to, you're never going to reach like the pinnacle, the top. It's every day is going to be a continuous process.
Like Ekta, they say, till you have a pain body, the pain is going to exist.
Yeah? Some people, Abhijita, they say or they feel or they have this, misconception or preconception that following a spiritual practice means giving up on your worldly pursuit, going into the mountains and living alone and, cutting yourself away from everybody. And I think you've addressed this in your book as well. So can you share a little bit about your thoughts about that? What do you think?
So it's a very stereotypical image. When you talk about spirituality, the first thing you see is orange robes. You see a lot of tilaks, and you see a lot of, alone time pictures, things which are in very lonely environments. But yes, it is true to an extent that you are able to focus on yourself only when you're with yourself, when you're not with distractions. So that's part A, which is essential. And part B, it is also true that certain color vibrations do give you a lot of support. It's also true that the nature supports you best in, exercising that. But one need not run away. You can be in the Grihastha but you can have the best of both worlds if you understand what it is. So for that, a person needs to understand what spirituality is. It's not abandoning everything and moving off to a different sphere or to live on a different orb. Spirituality is to be able to listen to the spirit. The spirit has a calling at a certain point in time. When I listen to my spirit, at a given point in time, whether I'm craving a sugary drink or whether I want something warm on a cold day, even if it has a few calories extra. My happiness of the spirit will tell you exactly whether I'm right or wrong. So that's what listening to the call of the spirit is. And each one needs to know what their body, what their mind, what their senses want to be able to function best.
Right. So spirituality doesn't mean running away from your life and going and living in the forest. It means enhancing your life actually and living with more awareness and taking better responsibility for yourself.
Body, mind, spirit. Gradually, it is a higher vibration level of you. And when you actualize yourself, when you listen to your highest version of yourself, how can you go wrong? Because that dimension understands the whole world in a very, very different context with very different ramifications. And that's why so many people will try and tell you access your higher self, access your higher consciousness to give you answers. That's what the spirit is. That's what you need to listen to. That's where you need to connect with. It's not an external organism or a entity that you need to link into. Yat pinde tat brahmande. What is within is without. Pura emphasis is to go inward. And once
Right.
we reach there, we are there in a happy space.
So you're saying that everybody has different needs. The grandparents have a different need, and the grandchild has a different need. So in that sense, not just in terms of needs of your physical day-to-day activities, but then we also have different needs for our meditations, for our spiritual practices.
Absolutely.
So what do you suggest in that?
So this book has been crafted with a lot of thought, with a lot of thought, because so long as I'm in this human form, I just don't have the need to be spiritually very, very upbeat there. I need to eat food also. I need to feel well also. I need to feel loved also. I need to earn also. I need to be able to make newer connections as well. So these are all your chakras and all your elements talking. So when we talk meditation, usually what happens is, number one, this word is not clear to a lot of people. For different people, it has different meanings, and mostly the one common meaning you will find is chupchap, quietly sit in one place or lie down and focus on something. That's it. Now, single-minded focus is what I call meditation. This is my personal thing. I don't claim to be someone who is a know-it-all. I can talk of my experience where I thrive. So what I think is a single-minded focus where I am hinged on a thought which is serving me well, which nourishes me. Right? That is my meditation. So when I do the meditation for all the 5 elements in the body, when I do the earth, I give myself rootedness. I give myself certainty, surety, and assurance. I am here. I love my form and I am of this earth. I may be aspiring to something else, but my truth in the moment is I am here. This is my now. So that's an acceptance of my present state of being and where I build upon. The next, when I do the water meditation, it's on the sacral chakra, which is a lot to do with my fluidity, my being able to create, whether as a mother you give birth to a child, whether as a business person you give birth to an idea, whether you work with words or you work with paint brushes or you create furniture or whatever you create. Everybody creates something or the other. So it's that fluid, creative space where you are also establishing relationships and connections and also creating more and more each day. Then
That's a lovely way to describe it. Yeah.
When I go on to the solar plexus, now this is very important because this is a place of security and safety and strength. And a lot of people are still battling financial security. They are trying to gain financial security, or they are trying to gain emotional security, whether it's through a spousal relationship, or it's through a parental or a child relationship. There is a lot of people who do not have their sense of self in place, or have faced trauma early on in life, or have faced very shaky circumstances, or have been berated in some manner. They will have very shaky foundations of who they are. When you balance the solar plexus, that is one place, very very powerful place, and it's also called the Manipur chakra, the gem, realizing the gem that you are. And I work with gems day in day out to tell you how powerful it can be. So to realize the gem that you are, it's a fantastic place to strengthen, to find yourself, to be rooted. Does the anahata or the heart meditation, it opens up a new world. It teaches them to trust again. And that's when you begin to live. You get past the old traumas and the hurts, and it's easier to open up to people, and also to accept people in life, with the awareness that it's trust is a gift you're giving yourself, not to the other person. The other person is free to do what they want to do. It's an opportunity to you give yourself. And then, of course, then comes the throat chakra, the etheric meditation. Now, this is very important, and because it corresponds to ether, that's a very little understood element. If you need the limitlessness of akasha, or the limitlessness of ether to play out and create that expansive experience in your life, there has to be a respect for ether. And the first understanding always is through the body, because that's something very personal to you, and you know.
So, it's interesting you were talking about the throat chakra. I was smiling because I've been told that as a writer, as somebody who writes, my throat chakra is actually it's a place I should work and keep healthy, because this is where my voice is. Voice is not just the physical voice, but also the written voice and my expression.
Power of expression, yes.
Yeah. So every chakra in the body is corresponding to certain gifts, also gifts and talents that we have, and the kind of work that we do, the kind of influence we have in the world. So, like you said, all these organs are connected to certain qualities in us, and when we strengthen them, we're keeping the channels of energy open, coming and going. So so everybody has, like you're explaining it, we all have different personality types based on which of these chakras are dominant. Like you said, if the heart chakra is blocked and that person has a problem with trust, they have trust issues, obviously their relationships are going to be affected. If somebody has a blocked solar plexus, then they're not able to rise up in their career probably, or they have issues at work. If somebody's creativity,
they will stall the careers of other people as well, because it's an insecure place. So you cannot be a giver if you're insecure.
So each of these chakras is corresponding to certain qualities and personality types. So what kind of spiritual practices should we do? If you can just give a few examples for each of these kind of problems or chakra imbalances. Like you said, that if you meditate on the heart chakra, it improves your relationships. And you have mentioned these meditations in your book as well. Yes. So you can just give a couple of examples from that.
So let's say, if there is a person, let's say, with very little water or too much water, they could be depressive. And this can lead to emotional mood swings, a lot of temperamental issues, a lot of desires which are unmet. So if you like swimming, I would highly recommend go swim. There's nothing like dunking yourself in water and having a good swim on a hot day. Then of course everybody's home now, and Earlier on, it would be that no, I gotta travel so much, so probably I will not drink water. I'll go there and drink water because otherwise I have to use a restroom. Now, mostly people are at home, but hydration is still an issue. You forget to have water. We'll do the bare minimum. So, drink a lot of water. Do the full moon meditation if you can.
So
So,
it's interesting that you're talking about how now we are all stuck at home. In that sense, there are a lot of other issues. I mean, it must have affected our psychic and spiritual bodies in so many other ways. Don't you think it's a? I mean, how do you
100%.
think we should deal with this now?
The first thing that I know for sure because I experienced it, I would get suffocated the first few days of being indoors because human beings, again, Akasha is limitless. It's expansive and it wants that huge space, like they say, that expression, mouthful of sky. Each one wants that. So to live boxed in within four walls, it's not a natural human condition. We like to go out. We like to have our air. So one thing that will make a real difference is if you have a terrace or if you have an open lawn or if you have a balcony, it would be wonderful if you can go and get some air and you can look upward because the sky is such a hope-giving entity that it never ceases to amaze me whenever I go to my terrace. Such a riot of colors, so much of hope. It's the perfect metaphor for freedom. So it's a big feel good factor in life.
So we should make sure that despite being locked down, we find a way to get our mouthful of sky and we find a way
100.
to have that sense of freedom on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
So thanks so much for being here, Abhijita, and for this enlightening talk. And I'll see you next week on Friday for another episode of Ishi TV. Bye-bye.